All right, this is the Community Improvement Fund podcast, and we are the co founders of the Community Improvement Fund. I am Andrew Smith,
I'm Davey Smith.
and this is the first episode. So, what we want to do today is just introduce ourselves, introduce the company, what the company does, what we've decided our primary goals are, what we've got coming in the future, just to kind of be transparent and get to know everybody. So, you ready?
Yep, let's get to it.
Okay, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So I am Davey Smith, older of the two of us by 2 years. Born and raised on Lookout Mountain. Lived here my whole life. Went to high school here, middle school here. Moved off to college to go to Georgia Tech in Atlanta. After that, started my career in computer science. I have a Bachelor of Science in computer science. Have been working in Atlanta. Am back in the Chattanooga area due to the pandemic, working remotely. So we'll continue to work remotely and live remotely here. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Big things I enjoy about Chattanooga, I'll just throw out here. I like all the outdoor activities. I'm big on kayaking, cruising around lakes, rivers, ponds, kayaking, light hiking, big into outdoor stuff. So that's sort of me in a nutshell. What about you?
Okay, so again, I'm Andrew Smith, and we are brothers. We didn't mention that at the beginning. It's probably obvious, but we are brothers, and I am the younger of us. So we grew up in the same house, so I also grew up in the Chattanooga area. After high school, I moved to Nashville. I went to Vanderbilt University, and my degree is a Bachelor of Arts in Economics. So, very applicable. So, I'm using my degree in economics to start this and, drudge forward. I have been working in the Chattanooga area since I left college, and I recently changed careers. So that's all going great, and we are using our spare time to drum up support and try to raise a little money for this organization that we started. So now we got to, we want to tell you about the organization. So that's kind of the whole point of this, is that we want to spread the word about the organization, try to meet some like-minded people, get some people to get excited about what we're doing because we're excited about it, and we think it's pretty unique and a tad bit revolutionary if it plays out like we expect it to. It could be a long time scale for that, but so we're pretty excited about it. So you want to get into it?
Sure. So
Is there anything else you want to say before we actually talk about the company?
I think we can get into it. One disclaimer I want to make, and this will probably be in some kind of image leading into each podcast, is that opinions expressed here are our own personal opinions. Obviously, we're not speaking for the Community Improvement Fund in this podcast. We're speaking about the Community Improvement Fund from our own unique founders' perspectives. Obviously, being a 501c3, there are certain things that the Community Improvement Fund has no opinion of. Politics, things of that nature. Might talk about it on the podcast. But again, if we are, just remember that's our personal opinion. Our opinion about those matters is not going to shape the way the Community Improvement Fund uses donations or uses its influence or anything like that. So just getting that out of the way. It'll be, like I said, a little disclaimer on every podcast, probably in the intro slides, so we don't have to keep saying it. As far as what we actually do, though, so our first main goal can be thought of as a privatized universal basic income. Our intention is to mail every resident of the greater Chattanooga area a check every month. It'll start out a relatively small dollar amount, $20, and the goal is to increase it as the value of the fund increased. And really, this is just a payment. It's not needs based or anything like that. There's nothing you do to earn this We're giving it to everyone freely. There's no stipulations, no strings attached. You do with it as you please. So I said the greater Chattanooga area a minute ago.
Yeah, I was going to hop in there.
Yeah.
So the greater Chattanooga, or technically it's the Chattanooga Metropolitan Statistical Area is the group of people that we are serving. So for those of you that might be listening that aren't from the Chattanooga area or not familiar with Chattanooga, Chattanooga is pretty much in the tri-state area of Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama. The Chattanooga metro area consists of 3 counties in Tennessee and 3 counties that are in Georgia. So the Georgia counties are Dade County, Walker County, which is where we live, and Catoosa County. The Tennessee counties are Hamilton, Marion, and Sequatchie.
Yes.
Also, I'm gonna plug right now that if you want to learn more about this, that you can visit our website, communityimprovementfund.org. If you would like to donate, then it is communityimprovementfund.org/donate, and we will definitely talk more about that. But I just wanted to get it out there.
Sure. So, we sort of talked about $20 to get the $20. You've got to be a resident of those 6 counties that we just mentioned.
And one of the 6.
Yeah, one of the 6. And so the way we are raising money to do this undertaking is through donations like we just mentioned, but also through raffle tickets. So we have an enrollment raffle for this $20 payment. So essentially you come to us either through the website or in person, and you buy a raffle ticket for $20. Once we have sold 250 raffle tickets at $20 a piece, we're going to pull a name out of a hat. And if we pull your name, then you're getting $20 a month minimum. Again, this is going to go up in the future, but $20 a month minimum for the rest of your natural life. So forever, again, no strings attached. You're getting the cash.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. Yes, guaranteed. We'll get into the economics of how that's guaranteed and how we're, keeping this money flowing in a little while. But, exciting part first is enter the raffle. You've got a 1 in 250 chance of getting $20 a month minimum for life. That's better than any scratcher, any $20 scratcher you get. Your odds are nothing. Your odds are better of getting struck by lightning on your way to buy that ticket than you are winning it. So
yeah, that's something I was going to mention too. Is people spend an astronomical amount of money on lottery tickets, and I get that if you win the lottery, you could win millions of dollars. But I mean, let's be real, you're not going to win. So if you took that money if you took the money that the person that spends a lot on the lottery every year and puts it toward what we're doing, I mean, there's a pretty good chance that you're gonna win. Especially if you buy multiple tickets. So imagine you spend. It's just you buy one ticket and get lucky. You spend $20, automatically you're getting $20 a month, and then eventually, once we, get up to speed, if you're getting $500 a month off of a $20, I mean that's huge. That's incredible. So
yeah,
and your odds aren't not bad.
That's a good call out to you. I keep saying minimum 20, theoretical maximum with current plans are $500 a month.
Yeah, so we don't at the current moment plan on, I don't want to say ever, but in the in the foreseeable future, as high as we're going to go with that, it's about $500 a month. Because we think, because it is an individual check, so theoretically a household of 2 parents, you would both be getting it. So if you were both getting it, then it would be $1,000 a month for your household, and that's pretty good.
Right.
I'd pay your rent.
20. I'll take a free $20 a month. Right.
Water bill.
Yeah, exactly. I'll put gas in my car, or some gas in my car, half a tank of gas or something for $20. I'll take it. Right. But $500, that's a life-changing sum of money. And that's the intention, right? Is to basically set a floor, a standard of living in the Chattanooga area. At the minimum, everyone should be sitting at $500 a month. You should be able to, eat, live in an apartment or whatever, out of the street basically, and that's your sort of minimum quality of life. Because I mean that's a human decency level, right? Lead a decent life. I'm not saying luxurious, but
dignified.
Yeah, Yeah, you have dignity.
And you know, also it's a kind of a good place to kind of talk a little bit bigger picture. Like the reason that we want to do this is ideally, so we want the Chattanooga area to kind of be a model for other places for like social benefit kind of deals. And you know, we're trying to eliminate like, you know, childhood hunger, trying to eliminate poverty. We're trying to eliminate, you know, people don't do as many drugs if they aren't stressed out about paying their bills every month. Stuff like that's going to go down. There are, and you know, we'll get into more of this probably in future episodes of kind of digging into the statistics of everything, but we kind of just want to do like a surface level overview in this episode. There's good evidence that domestic violence goes down when you know maybe people aren't arguing over finances as much.
Right. And again, even at $500 a month, there's probably some people out there watching this thinking, I can't live on $500 a month, even as an individual. But I don't want to say that's the idea, but
well, it's not our intention to where like you're going to get this and not have to work. You know, that's not what.
Right. But there's a lot of like minimum wage is a hot topic right now, and like how high should minimum wage be? If you were in the discussion is, okay, minimum wage is not enough money for someone to live off of. With $500 a month plus minimum wage, even as it sits right now, you're doing a pretty good job. You know, if I'm working 40 hours a week on minimum wage with a $500 a month, you know, like buffer to keep me up, then it's again not luxurious. You're not, you know, living it up at the Ritz for this payment, but you're doing all right. You can buy groceries, you can keep a roof over your head, you know, you've got a car probably at that.
Yeah, you can make a car payment. I mean, you know, assuming you're not like if you're a single mother with 3 kids, then that's a tougher situation, but
right.
For the average household, 2-parent household.
Right. And that's sort of where we want to be at. It's not that this is, you know, a luxury kind of thing, and it will be for some people. You know, for me, I'm lucky enough and I'm blessed enough to be doing all right. $500 extra for me is going to look a lot different than $500 for a single mother with 1 child, which is going to look even more different for a single mother with 3 kids. So it's, you know, it's going to impact people differently, but it's going to be a net positive. It's everyone's going to benefit.
Yeah, you can't hurt somebody by giving them $500 a month, no matter who they are.
Right. And, you know, if we're looking to maximize returns, hopefully you're taking that $500 if you're not needing it for, you know, survival, essentially. Hopefully you're going out and you're injecting that back into the local economy, you know.
Well, so even like middle class people, even if they aren't struggling to pay their bills month to month, they could still be carrying like some student loan debt that they could pay off with it. They could have credit card debt. Because like I know that we do fine. Like we don't struggle to pay our bills. I mean, like a year ago we probably did, but we don't struggle to pay our bills. But you know, we have a little bit of credit card debt, and credit card debt is pretty hard to pay off. I mean, because you have to free up money to do it every month. If you don't have a surplus, then I don't see how people do it.
Right. I've heard before, like, being poor is expensive.
Yeah,
right. Like,
sure.
if I can't afford to go to the dentist, I'm going to end up with cavities. I'm going to need a root canal.
Or worse than that. I mean, dental problems can lead to all kinds of stuff.
Right. And that's way more expensive than just going to get my teeth cleaned once a year. So,
well, I mean, so people in poverty tend to not have like health insurance or as good health benefits.
Right.
So I know like my dental insurance is like $6 a month, and I get 2 free cleanings a year. So I'm literally paying $3 each time I get my for 6 months of dental maintenance. Whereas if you don't have insurance and you get a cavity filled, you're probably paying like $300 or $400.
Yeah, even me, I opted out of dental insurance like my first year on the job, and I was like, oh, I'll just go get my teeth cleaned. Like, no. How bad could it be? You know, that's all I'm gonna do. Because I thought I was like, I'm gonna save myself some money. You know, I only go to the dentist twice a year, and I went to the dentist, and they were like, oh, well, you haven't had X-rays in like in like over 2 years, so we have to do x-rays or we won't see you. I was like, well, how much is that going to be? And it was ridiculous. Like even me, you know, and I'm working a good paying job, and even me, I'm like, oh wow, like that is expensive.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you can't do it.
no, you can't. There's no way. If you're working if you're working a fast food job just to keep your bills paid, you can't afford to go to the dentist. And I mean,
yeah, I don't care how much money you make. Sometimes, you know,
right.
if you haven't budgeted for it, you don't like most people don't have that much money in the bank.
Right.
Another thing I want to mention here. So our philosophy with this is not simply to reduce poverty and focusing on people in poverty. Definitely that is important, and those people will be like probably the most benefited by doing this. But again, bigger picture, really the reason behind most universal basic income like policies and implementations is to address wealth inequality, which affects definitely the middle class, like even the upper middle class. Like you hear all the time, like the top 1%, and you know, like Bezos is worth billions and billions of dollars, and you know the average American household, you know, does fine, but is getting by, but by no means is it like a utopia or anything.
Right. Right. Yeah, and so I think that's a good point, because the number one question we get asked when we bring this up to people are like, well, you know, oh, you're going to give this to people in need. And it's like, well, yes, like obviously it's going to have a disproportionate positive impact on those people. But unfortunately, because we're 100% funded by individual donations. So through especially like the enrollment raffle, starting out, people who are barely getting by, a $20 raffle ticket that might or may not pay out is out of reach for a lot of people, and we recognize that. And so the biggest thing we do is fundraise. In fact, right now we don't do anything else. We literally just fundraise because it's that important. And
we don't have any money to that, to be clear.
Sure, yes. And with the money we gain outside of the enrollment raffle, you know, we have the freedom to be discretionary and to help and to put it where it needs to be. But the enrollment raffle gets that money in the bank that allows us to expand our footprint and allows us to operate better. So it's a win-win for everyone, right? I understand that some people will say, well, like, you know, why are, middle-class people are going to get these raffle tickets and they're going to get this and they don't even need it. I think people need it more than they realize. And
yeah,
I think
that's what I was going to say. Like we're kind of talking about, we're not, but it could be taken like that people in need is like a bad thing. It's definitely not. And I would argue that like we're all in need.
Absolutely.
Because like things that prove that, and again we can do a deep dive later, as we go. But like the opioid crisis, that is a very middle class, even upper middle class problem too.
Right.
So there are problems across the spectrum of how well we're doing. And so something else I want to mention too, while we're on the topic of inequality, a big thing that people like to talk about is like the stock market. And when the stock market hits like record highs and stuff, every news organization in the world is like celebrating that, and everyone gets excited about it. So, but like in reality, like most people aren't affected by that like at all. Like most Americans don't have any exposure to the stock market, and the overwhelming majority of Americans are only exposed to the stock market within their like 401k.
Yeah, and I read a statistic today that was nuts, and we'll put a source to this article because I'm probably gonna screw this number up.
We'll link it
a little bit. But so see the description for this article. But it's like the top 1% own, I think it was 86% of all available stocks in the U.S. And it was like it just hit an all-time high, like as of when this article was written. And so, to your point, like, it doesn't do you any good if America is killing it in the stock market if you don't own stock. And most people who own stock, like you said, it's in your 401k.
Which is fine, but
a lot of people don't have 401ks,
or they'll
right?
cash it out when they're 40, and then they'll be
Right.
screwed later anyways.
Right. And so that sort of leads us into how we keep this $20 payment being perpetual. And so I'll let you speak to that.
Let me say one more thing about the stock market too. So kind of just so that you kind of get a background idea of our philosophy behind this is that if you think of like a publicly owned stock, publicly owned just means that like individual investors have the opportunity to invest in that. In reality, like we've been talking about, a very small amount of people own an overwhelming majority of those things. So what we kind of, the whole basis for what we're doing is that we're going to create a fund to where our donations that we raise or that people give us, funds that we raise through our events, are going to go into this investment account, and we're going to just grow this account, and it's literally going to be a fund for the people. So this fund is going to have no other purpose than to be the income generator that we are going to disperse to people in the Chattanooga area. So, that being said, this fund will consist of mutual funds. We don't have to get into that.
Right.
But
not individual stocks. Like, we don't have any interest in picking winners or losers. I think when a lot of people, especially people who aren't familiar with the stock market, they think of like what they've seen with like GameStop and AMC in the news, where like, oh, people are put their life savings into GameStop and hope it goes up, or Bitcoin, like hope it goes up. It's not like that. It's essentially we're investing in a collection of stocks, so no individual stock. We're not picking winners and losers, and
so we'll have a diversified portfolio of stocks that are primarily United States companies.
Yes.
We'll have a little bit of exposure to like Europe and maybe some Asian stocks just for the sake of diversification. But honestly, I can comfortably say like 90 to 95% United States. So because of that, those stocks that we own and the mutual funds that we own, when you say publicly owned, that's more of like, oh, it's actually benefiting the public. So when this, when our fund goes up in value with the market, we're going to see a real benefit because we're going to be able to pay people more money.
Right. And we're talking about, if you give me $20 and we sell 250 tickets, I can pay you $20 a month forever. It's because you expect a certain level of growth, and you can rely on a certain level of growth from these investments. And what the point is, I'm taking out on average less than my stock is growing in value. And that's true even if you have, like, if you look at the 2008 downturn, the strategy we're employing will allow us to survive a similar downturn in the economy without us having to reduce payments. So the fund will grow organically, obviously, because we're going to play it safe. We're not going to try to pay out exactly what growth will be on average. That's just not a safe thing to do. So we'll have some buffer. So we'll expect a small amount of growth over the long term. But over the long term, that's going to add up. And so we are going to have organic growth, and we'll be able to expand it that way. And then we're also putting money in via donations and things of that nature, fundraising. So,
and I just want to be a little bit more, dive into that a little bit more. So my background is a financial advisor. That's what I did for 2 years after graduating college and before we started this. So, I would help people save for retirement, try to get people to invest as early as they could. So the concept really comes from when people retire, like what's the best thing that they should do with their money. And so what I always tried to teach people is, so if you save up, retire at 65, maybe you have, $300,000 in the bank. So you don't just cash out your $300,000 and put it in your savings account and spend money till you run out of money. Like, that's stupid. People do it, but it's stupid. So the strategy is you leave your money invested diversified portfolio. Don't get too conservative. Don't put it all in one company. So strike a balance between, how aggressive you want to be. But so the golden number for retirement is 4%. So if you have $300,000, you can spend 4% of your account value every year. So quote 4% of $300,000. What's that? 12,000.
Something like that. Yeah.
Because 1% is 3 times 4.
Something. Yeah. Sounds about right.
So $12,000. $12,000. If you have $300,000 in your account, you can spend $12,000 every year for the rest of your life, and you will never run out of money. And that's because, like you said earlier, your average long-term rate of return, if it is invested appropriately, which is if it's invested the way we're going to do it, it is, your long-term rate of return in an account like this is going to be about 12, ballpark 11 to 13%. So you're going to average about 12 over time. That doesn't mean you're going to make 12 every year, because some years you're going to make 25. Some years you're going to lose, however much. You could lose 20% of your account. It doesn't matter what happens in 1 year. It matters what happens over 100 years. And especially with us, because when you retire, you're not going to, most people don't live to be 100. So you've only got 35 years, like maximum. With us, it's in perpetuity. So we have theoretically an infinite amount of time, which means we really don't care what it does in any 1 year, as long as, we're on the uptrend.
Right. And people will talk about the economy was up today, the Dow Jones was up today. Those fluctuations, if you look at it on a even a year-long time frame, you can see the slow rise over a long period, and it gets even more prominent if you look at 10 years. The economy goes up relentlessly, even factoring in the Great Depression. If you look at the history of the Dow Jones, you can see dips, obviously, for various depressions we've had, but it's obviously an upward trend steadily over the long term, and even over the medium term, 5 year. If you look at a 5-year stretch, in most cases, depending on how you frame it, you're going to have positive growth on average over 5 years.
Yeah, usually over 5 years and definitely over 10 years. So
yes,
it's very, if you do it right, it should be impossible to invest money and then have it be less 10 years later. It should always be more 10 years later.
Right. If we are in a 10-year economic downturn, honestly, you're going to have bigger
something
problems
else going on.
Yeah, there's something. It's not the economy acting naturally.
And you do see periods of time that can be flat. So, because if you think just this century, we had the .com bubble burst in 01, 02. So that was a pretty big downturn in 2002. Then everyone knows about the financial crisis in 08, 09. So that was a big downturn. After that, though, there was I think 2018 was the S&P 500 was in -2. And you can have intra-year downturns too that don't really show up when you look back historically, because a good example of that is 2020,
right?
Where March 2020 we took a 30% downturn, but then by September we were already back. Because I don't want to get into about how it's different than 08, because in 08 we had a collapse of the banking system, and everyone was all those mortgage securities were defaulting. So that was different than we all had to stay in our houses for 6 months, so no one spent any no one was making any money.
Right. And if you actually continue to put money in during the downturns, which is absolutely what you should do, you actually benefit from those short dips, because you're basically buying your stock on sale. You can think of it that way. I'm getting this stock that is generally worth more than it is currently priced, and I'm getting it for the cheap, and that value is going to go back up. So, for us, because we're selling raffle tickets, we're constantly fundraising. we're constantly putting money into the fund. And we're only taking it out at that golden percentage where we're not losing money.
So our account is not at risk of being depleted.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Obviously, the value of our account will go down when the economy takes a downturn.
But it doesn't matter.
But it literally does not matter.
Yeah, literally, it does not matter.
It doesn't impact us at all.
Because, so if you look at it on an annual basis, if your account, it's just an if statement, right? If your account is less than it was last year, you pay the same amount. You pay exactly the same as you did last year. If your account is greater than it was last year, then we can bump it up. And then once you bump it up, once you ever bump it up, that's your new floor. So let's say we were paying $20 a month, and our investments had a good year, so we bumped it up to $25 a month. Okay, so now the next year it goes down. We pay still $25. Like every time it goes up, that's the new minimum. So every time you get a check, that's the smallest check you'll ever get.
Right. Like we're not going to decrease that number because I want you to be able to depend on that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If I'm getting $25 a month, go ahead and put that in the budget. Where you can spend that $25 a month forever. We're never gonna decrease it on you. We're never gonna have well, we're having a real bad time, folks. We can't get enough donations. Sorry. That's not gonna happen. You can depend on that number, and we can do that because again, we're investing conservatively enough to where we have this dependable stream of cash we can pay out, and we're not.
I wouldn't even call the investments conservative because it's an aggressive investment strategy. Yeah. But our strategy, like you said, it's conservative in the way of where we're not going to run out of money, but the investments itself would be. I mean, this is the financial advisor talk. You wouldn't be able to say that's conservative to somebody, but it's fine. That doesn't matter.
Right. I mean, it's conservative in the fact that it meets our goals of being able to constantly pay out over the long term, which is what's important. I mean, the rest of it doesn't. To me, a non-economics minded person, I don't sweat the small stuff and the details. I'm just thinking, hey, we're able to pay out the money without running out of money, which is what's the important part.
And that's actually a really important part of it because, so we can get into this. What's going to be an easy thing to do is look at what we're doing and compare it to the standard, the usual idea of what universal basic income is.
You get a name drop.
So specifically, if you look at Andrew Yang's policy.
Oh, the shots fired.
From the 2020. And we love Andrew Yang.
Yeah. Obviously.
We're in the Yang gang.
We like math.
We do like math. So, okay, so even if it's not Andrew Yang, though, the traditional concept of universal basic income is a check from the government, right?
Right.
So there are some problems with that. First of all, if the government can implement something, they can stop implementing it, right?
Right.
We can get some bad apples in there that will vote it down, essentially.
Or even, I don't even want to say bad apples, just people with different opinions.
It's just people that think the money should be used for something else.
And there are, I would say there are justifiable reasons, if it's coming from the government, that you might want to say, we can't afford to do this right now. I think of war. World War II, we had to stop doing a lot of stuff in the name. I mean, especially in U.S. politics, the trends and ideas in Washington change like the weather, I feel like. So one of the big problems with government-run universal basic income is, like you said, they can take it away from you with a simple strike of a pen. For us, we are private. The whole vision is maintained by the two of us sitting here, and I'm going to look you in the eye right now and tell you that is not going to happen. And more than that, I've signed paperwork legally binding me to this 501c3 that says that's not going to happen. This is what the money is being used for. This is all it's for. There's no other place that this particular set of funds is going to go. Now, are we going to do other things with other donations? Yes. Our plan is more than just this UBI, but This
But we'll be upfront about that too as it comes along. too.
right.
And we'll publish like our budget every year and stuff.
And I'm not stealing from Peter to pay Paul, right? I'm not going to take money out of the UBI fund to pay for other philanthropy that we want to do. If we're doing other stuff, that's a different set of donations. But back to the to the topic at hand.
So I wanted to touch on something you mentioned. So the ability to pay for it is actually a pretty big deal, because even if every congressperson and every person in the White House wanted to do this, or wanted to do a universal basic, I'm stumbling over the words, wanted to do a UBI program, it would still be hard to do, because you would either you got to do like one of three things. You either have to cut other programs, whether it's the military, whether it's Social Security, whether it's food stamps, whatever. If you keep the budget the same, you've got to take the money from somewhere else, because that's how budgets work.
Right.
Or you can just spend more money, and print the money, which is also probably bad, because the national debt is gigantic. Or you could raise taxes through the roof to pay for it, which I think is part of like the plan usually when that gets implemented, like either a tax on the ultra wealthy, which I don't necessarily think would be a terrible idea, but it's unpopular though.
I also don't think. I think a lot of times people discuss this with no real plan to pay for it, honestly, because it's really easy to get up there and say, I'm going to give you $1,000 a month for the rest of your life, and then have absolutely no way to pay for it. I mean, and it's not just with UBI. The government is infamous for doing this about lots of things.
Yeah. So to be fair to Andrew Yang, though, so Andrew Yang did have a plan to pay for it. However, and that's part of the problem with his plan too. So part of his plan to pay for it was that if you were already getting $1,000 a month worth of government benefits, then that's just what you got. So you weren't going to get anything extra on top of that. So, I mean, really, if you want to talk about money not going into the people that need it, under his plan, the poorest of us wouldn't have seen anything change. His was only going to affect the middle class.
Right.
Which is fine, but, I mean, let's be real.
Right. And it doesn't, like you said, if you're already getting that much government assistance, it's not going to help you literally at all. Like you're not going to see
nothing changes.
Yeah, and so the people who are going to benefit most are the people who don't get any government assistance right now, which is backwards if you're looking at it from a needs-based, which a lot of these UBIs claim to be. It's like, hey, we're going to help the poor, help the needy. Well, are you really? And I mean, again, I'm not going to pick on other people's implementations too much specifically. I just think this isn't something the government is able to do well. The government's good for a lot of things. I'm not anti-government necessarily, but this isn't going to be a place where they excel, and this is going to be a place where us, privatized, donations based, is much more nimble. Just going back to what we were talking about, in order to pay for it, they have to figure out where the money's going to come from. We've got that part actually figured out. We're going to have the money in the bank before we start handing it out. This isn't some pie in the sky like, maybe I'll get $1 million somehow, and I'm going to promise it to you right now though, and then I'll figure out where to get the money later. Our plan is the other way. We are going to get the money first, and then once we have the money secured and we know we've got it forever, and underline in red there, forever, we are going to start handing it back out, which is a huge difference. It may seem, insignificant if you're not really looking into it, but it's a big thing.
It's the biggest difference in the world.
It's the hugest difference in the world. I think other reasons why we're better equipped to do this than the government is we have less red tape to go through. There's no, people say like it takes an act of Congress to do whatever when they're talking about how it's really difficult to do something. I mean, it would take an act of Congress to do anything with UBI if it was provided by the government. For us, if we need to adjust, we can adjust on the fly. We can better react to things that are happening. And we can, honestly, we can better serve the community because we don't have those political interests.
So we're not going to be influenced by like corporations. We're not going to be influenced by campaign donations because we're not going to be public officials.
Right. I mean,
even public opinion. I mean, if everyone hates us, if everyone in Chattanooga hates us, it really doesn't matter. I mean, we can send people, okay, don't cash the check then, I guess. But, it doesn't matter if people like us or not. We're still going to be doing what we believe to be the right thing.
Right. And to your point, we will send you a check. Ultimately, once we have the funding secured to do so, we'll send you a check whether you like us or not. It doesn't matter. It isn't a popularity contest. I'm not trying to get your vote for anything.
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm not pandering to you. I'm just saying, hey,
we think this is a good policy for Chattanooga.
Yeah, we think this is going to improve not just your life personally, but everyone's lives in the 6-county area. Like, we think that this is a key piece of strategy to make Chattanooga the best place to live in the world. And literally, like, that's the ultimate goal. Is like, hey, I want this to be the shining city on the hill, right? The place to be.
Right.
And honestly, like, I might be an old man before we get anywhere close to this goal, but it's fine. If you're setting it in motion now, it will get there eventually.
If you'd like to expedite the process, go to communityimprovementfund.org/donate.
Right, and buy a raffle ticket. I mean, as soon as we sell 250 raffle tickets, we're going to do a drawing, and we're going to tell you, hey, we're handing this ticket out, and there's going to be one more person in the world getting this monthly check.
Yeah, I think it's also worth saying that even if you're listening to this and you don't live in one of those 6 counties, go on there and donate $20 anyways, because you're pretty much like sponsoring a resident in one of those 6 areas, and still good.
Yeah, and if we pull your name out of that hat, you can pick who it goes to. Like in the area.
It doesn't have to go to you, but
right. And so if you're outside the area and you buy this raffle ticket and we draw your name out, we'll contact you and we'll be like, all right, so how do you want to play this? If you want to say, hey, I want to give it to somebody in need, like, we'll get you in contact with somebody who is in need and who's going to appreciate $20 a month. If you're doing this to troll us and you're a contrarian, you want to be like, hey, I want to give it to the richest person you can find. Like,
fine.
We'll find some rich guy to give it to you, and at the very least, your publicity stunt will hopefully garner us a few donations.
Yeah, we'll post about it on social media.
Like, well, at this point, I'll take any money we can get from you guys out there, and we will put it to good use. So yeah, and I sort of want to circle back to the discussion we were talking about with, like, we're not government entities. We're taking individual donations. I think a lot of what people don't like about these like big budget items from the government is like you have all these lobbyists and all these special interest groups. Like, you can do, a quick Google search will bring you back some results that show how much these big companies, these big interest groups donate to, your senators, your Congress people every year so that they vote the way they want them to. They spend money to, the way they want them to. Like, let's be clear, those donations they're making are going to be a profit for them in the long term.
They're not donating out of the goodness of their hearts.
Right. So no one's donating to us with any kind of agenda, I can tell you right now. I mean, if they do, if you're an individual, a wealthy individual, and you want to write me a check for $100,000, cool, but no strings attached. Like, I'm not promising you anything because I don't play that way. Like, right, I'm not a public official, so you have no leverage over me.
Yeah, you can't vote me out. But also, if you do want a string to be attached, then just buy a raffle. Like, if you buy a raffle ticket, then there is a string attached,
right? Because
you could benefit from that because we could draw your name,
right? And I'm saying
I know what you're saying. I was just saying.
Yeah, and I'm not saying too that you can't come to me. If you're listening to this out there and you've got a lot of money and you want to, if you've got some idea to make Chattanooga better,
don't be shy.
Yeah, by all means, approach us and we'll see. We'll see what it is. I'm not. There's no nefarious purpose though behind this. Like, I think a lot of times people hear something like, "Oh, the government wants to give you a $300 check for something," and they're like, "Oh, well, they're just trying to do that to get elected, or they're just trying to do that to I don't know, keep people from going back to work or something." I don't know. That's obviously not us. Like, if I'm giving you this $20, I don't care what you spend it on. I really don't. I mean, it's yours. I'm giving it to you because I think just the simple act of you having it will make the whole area better for everyone, and that we'll see a benefit across the board. So it's yours. We were talking about lottery tickets earlier. Hey, if you want to spend your $20, we're sending you on a $20 lottery ticket and try, have your fun. Do it. Fund pre-K or whatever the lottery goes to.
Yeah, it's educate, some kind of education.
So I mean, it's there are very few things you could go out and buy with this $20 that are going to do way more harm than good. And so it really doesn't matter to us what you spend it on. The fact that you have it and that you're going to pass it around a few times will multiply it in value, and we're good to go overall.
Also, another note on the raffle tickets I don't think we mentioned earlier is that you can buy multiple raffle tickets per raffle. Right. So theoretically, if you wanted to buy all of them, you could just give us $5,000 and you win. Right? Right.
Yeah. It's $5,000 will buy
the whole raffle.
Buy the whole raffle. So we have this, I mean, it's a raffle ticket, so there's an element of chance, but that's more like fun and games and giving us an easy way to decide who to enroll based on the donations. If you really just want to say like, hey, I have $5,000, can I guarantee a spot for me or somebody else? By all means, like, get in contact with us. We'll make it happen. Like, you don't be fooling around with trying to buy all the tickets and making sure no one else buys one. Like, get in touch with us. Our emails are both, if you go to the website, our contact info is there. Get in touch. We will reach out to you directly, and we'll make it happen.
Go ahead and say what our emails are.
Sure. So, just for general email, you can do info@communityimprovementfund.org. I'm Davey, Davey, at communityimprovementfund.org. You are Andrew at communityimprovementfund.org. So shoot us an email basically to communityimprovementfund.org, and we will read it. We'll get in contact with you and all that good stuff. And that goes for pretty much anything too. Like, if you just want to get in contact with us, if you're listening to this and you just want to get a hold of us,
send us some fan mail.
Yeah, for basically anything. Like, you want to drop something in the mailbag, we will bring it up on the podcast if it is, if that's what it's about. We will get in contact with you if you're looking to volunteer or get involved or whatever it is.
Or ask a question, because you may not. I mean, we've kind of been a little all over the place, so if you don't understand still what we're doing, ask us a clarifying question, and, if it's a good one, we'll email you back for sure, and then we'll, address it.
Yeah, and I mean, the whole purpose of the podcast is so that people know what we're doing, so that, you get a sort of idea about who we are and the kind of people that we are and the kind of mindset that we're in with all this. And it's also it's for you, you at home to ask questions, and you at home to let us know what you need to know from us. Even if you just want, our opinion on something, like, how do you guys feel about this? That's something we're happy to go into and say, whatever. Obviously, we want to talk about relevant stuff. I'm not going to dig into the weeds on every little. Yeah. I'm not going to fight the good fight on anything super controversial on this podcast.
Unless it's relevant,
Right. Yeah. I'm not here to throw out hot takes, I guess. Yeah. But we'll talk about it. I mean, we'll get it.
Another thing, about the podcast too, we just kind of want to bring people along for the ride with us too as we build this thing, because it is exciting. I've been pretty excited about it since we've kind of been, because we've really been thinking about, or we've talked about doing this for almost 2 years, or probably more than 2 years, honestly.
Right.
Because I was still in college, when we first started talking about it. So, it definitely took us a while to kind of work out some of the details, and we're still updating it as we go. So I don't know. It's pretty exciting that we could watch this thing grow from not having anybody on our payroll to having eventually the whole area.
Yeah, and just as like a full transparency on where we are, we have sort of our infrastructure in place. Like we have a website, we have a donation infrastructure. So if you can go online right now and donate to us, and you can buy raffle tickets, and that money is already in the pipeline. Like we have infrastructure to invest it. We have infrastructure in the works that we can actually pay people out. So we're to the point where we're ready to go. We have some fundraisers in the pipeline. We've recently had a trivia night. We've got another one on the books. We're planning another one. And so we're going to continue to do fundraising. Like I said, that's our primary concern, literally only concern, is doing these fundraisers, getting out there. Also, the other thing I just want to plug real quick, we have merch available. So we'll be listing that out. So look for the links on that if you want to help support us that way. And yeah, I mean, we're going to make sure to publicize all these events that we're putting on. We're starting out pretty local to where we are, just because that's where we can have the most pull and get the most people to show up, frankly. Obviously, we want to expand that to other pieces of the area, and get some more of these on the calendar. So always be looking out for that. We're going to get better about getting the word out as to where these things are going to be, so we can hopefully pull more people and hopefully see some of you guys there. If we see you there and you heard about it from the podcast, for sure, tell us, and so we know we're getting some actual traction here.
Is this just on YouTube at the moment, or is it on audio?
So it'll be on YouTube for the foreseeable future, and I can get into that. Like, YouTube is a good, cheap / free way for us to get out there. A lot of these podcast hosting things, they require a monthly fee. Most of them. I mean, if you want to get out yourself on some platforms, you're going to have to pay for it. And that cuts into our fundraising, right? So we're trying to do as much stuff on the cheap as possible so that all of our budget is going towards actually putting money in people's pockets.
Yeah, if you haven't figured it out by now, we have very little money at the moment, which is why we're really trying to drum up, fundraising, donations. We've already sold some raffle tickets, so they're flying off the shelves. So get them while you can. But since it is on YouTube, that's where people will be watching this. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, right?
Yes.
What do we have? What's our YouTube channel called?
So
we don't have one.
We don't have one right now. By the time this airs, obviously it'll be on a YouTube channel.
It'll probably just be called Community Improvement Fund, right?
Yes. And yeah, so give us a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the little bell, so that you get notified when the next one comes out. We're making this a regular thing, so obviously this is the first episode. I'm not going to promise you I'm going to have another one out in 2 weeks. We'll see how it goes with everything, but it's definitely going to be a regular thing. I would think once a month minimum is when you're going to be getting an update from us, a video from us, a chat like this. And we'll just, it's the first one. We're still learning, so we'll figure it out as we go along. But yes, this will be on YouTube.
Yep. And then again, if you want to visit our website, it is communityimprovementfund.org, and that's where you can donate. That's where you can read a little bit about us. Eventually, as we start onboarding people, we will have like a progress page where you can see, historically, how much we've paid out, how many people we're sending checks to every month. What we want to have a cool little map thing on there where you can see like what percentage of the Chattanooga area we are covering, and that'd be really cool to keep up with. Because I don't know, that'd be fun to just have bookmarked on your computer and just swing by there every once in a while to see the progress we're making.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, to go with that, don't be discouraged if it doesn't look like a lot. I mean, there are, we've done the numbers on how many people are actually in the area and how many people are eligible. So obviously it's a lot. Like we're going to have a lot of money to cover everyone. But every little bit helps. I mean, if you have 3 people on your street getting it, like that's a big deal, right? Like like, I'm thrilled to have 3 people who know each other that have this. You know, like every person we onboard is doing tangible good. I think a lot of times when people are asking you for donations, they're like, "Hey, can you help us save the whales?" And it's like, okay, well, I like whales, but what is if I give you $10 right now? What does my $10 do? Right? Like, how many whales am I saving?
Yeah,
for $10?
they don't send you an email and say, "Oh, we saved a whale today because of your $20."
Right. And if you give us $20 for a raffle ticket,
we'll tell you.
When we do that drawing, we're going to tell you, hey, I want you to know, like, you did 1/250th of the work to get this out. And who knows, like, it might be you, right? You might get an email that's like, hey, your $20 is now back in your pocket, and next month you're going to get another $20. So, like, it's tangible. Like, and every dollar you give to us, you know exactly where it's going. Because I'm telling you right now, I mean, right now, if you give me $20, that's the only place it's going. It's going to this enrollment raffle. We're going to put it in somebody's mailbox. Eventually, too, when we're doing other things, like we have some more like public works things that we want to get into, and we want to improve the city that way. We're going to let you know when we do it, and we're going to say, hey, your donation made this possible. Like, we are putting your money to real work. I think a lot of times, too, people like, other foundations, they'll say, hey, this is what I want to do. This is how much money I have to raise to do it. Again, I sort of talked about us working backwards a little bit. Like, often we're going to say, all right, we've got this $1,000 in the bank. What's the best we can do for $1,000? Like, what's the most good I can do
the
with
biggest
$1,000?
impact.
Yeah,
immediate impact too, because we'll just go do it.
Right. Yeah, I don't have to worry about like all the things you would have to worry about if this was, again, a government organization. On like if we see something, if we see a need, and we've got the cash on hand to fill that need, like, we will do it. Like, I'll pull the trigger,
Yeah, we don't have to be, obviously we want to be good stewards of the money, but we can be decisive.
Right. We can take action. I think, and I don't want to dog on the government too much, but I think, like, they also have good intentions a lot of the time. And, like, oh, we can do this, but it's the inability to take action is where it breaks down. With us, if we say, okay, this needs to be done, it is a widely accepted fact that it needs to be done, then we'll do it. It's not, and again, I don't want to be like we're gonna just do whatever we feel like. We're grounded in facts. We're grounded in science. We trust the studies on, hey, here is what we can do with the money that makes good economic sense, that we know studies have shown will have a positive impact.
It doesn't have to be anything on a grand scale either. It could be as simple as, filling a pothole in or something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great example. Like, there are some nasty potholes in Chattanooga, and I've seen some, like, I looked at the recent mayoral race. Like, that was a big gimmick that a lot of people were doing. They were like,
potholes.
I'm going to go fill in a pothole, and they'll film themselves filling the pothole. I mean, they honestly, with the money they spent on that commercial, they could have filled like half the potholes in the whole city. So, I mean, looking at things like that, I think like Domino's, I think they did a similar campaign where they did it and they like spray painted the Domino's logo on it or something. So, so
maybe
if
we
we
should
go
do something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll spray paint the Community Improvement Fund logo on there.
Sapling.
Yeah, exactly. So people will see it. I mean, but it's just things like that. I mean, that's something we can do with not a lot of money, that does a lot of good. Like, I've run over some nasty potholes in my little lowered truck these days, like, I'm feeling those potholes.
Knocks the air out of your tires.
Yeah, so I think, especially if that's like in your neighborhood, if the entrance to my neighborhood has
it affects
pothole,
your daily life. If you hit it, if you run over it every day, you're going to notice if you stop running over it every day.
Right. And it's bad on your car. It stresses you out. Like, it puts me in a bad mood when I hit a big pothole, it's small things like that you're probably saying to yourself, like, why has nobody done anything about this yet? Like, let us know. Like, drop me an email and, like, we'll talk about getting it done.
Well, I'm sure everyone around here knows of, like, a county road that has I mean, it's probably washed out on one side.
Right.
Like our grandmother,
Oh
our
yeah.
grandmother lives on a road on Lookout Mountain, and I mean, your car rocks back and forth going down that road because it's so terrible, and it's a county road. I mean, no one will pave it. It's been like that for our whole life.
Right. It's a dangerous place to pull out from already.
Yeah.
Like there's not good visibility. It's hard to get out of there. And I think too, like if you look at the people that live on that road, there are 2 veterans that live on that road and a veteran's widow. Like our
Yeah, it
grandmother is
used to be
a
3.
widow of a veteran, and they have called the county multiple times and cannot get it done. Like trust me, if I had the cash right now, I would go and fill that in for my own selfish reason.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, think of the impact, and it's not a lot of money, but I mean, even us, we're talking about like helping the needy. Like I'm needy enough to where I don't have the cash on hand to go and fix that, and it's frustrating because I know the solution. I say,
Yeah.
why can no one to fix this? I know what the solution is, and it's just out of reach. And I think problems like that are all over the area. And I'm here to tell you, like, we can do something about it. You know,
Yeah.
if we have those donations coming in, that's the kind of thing I want to go and fix because that's going to make life better for people immediately. And like we said before, you know, if you give me $10 and I use that $10 to go fill a pothole somewhere, I'm going to send you, you know, with your consent, if you want, I'm going to send you an email and saying like, hey man, we used your donation to go and fill this pothole, and you just made this, you know, these 20 people, you made their life a lot better, you know. And so I want that accountability for the donations that are coming in, so you know, like, hey, this is what we're doing with your money. Again, that's sort of the grand scheme of things. Obviously, UBI is our primary goal because filling a pothole does good for, you know, a neighborhood of people. UBI effectively does good for every single person in the 6 county area.
Yeah, it affects you individually. It affects us all as a group, and I mean, it could be have a generational impact too. Like,
Right.
if we start giving people like $300 a month, and you know that allows you to like keep your kids in school or something, like or just, you know, frees up a little bit of money to where, like, I don't know, you can get it, like, have your kids tutored for school or have them, you know, work to get into college or something. I mean, that could be the biggest impact in the world.
Or I mean, $300 you can go get your car fixed when it breaks down, and your kid.
Go to even
Right.
go to work, be
Right.
able to go to work.
I mean, you see, so we're big into sports, and so I see stories all the time on ESPN that are like, hey, this kid almost couldn't go to football practice, and that kid is now NFL star. It's like, think how many other NFL stars that are out there who are not playing football right now because you know, their dad's car broke down and he can't go get them at practice. So then now they got to ride the bus home and they can't stay for football practice. They got to quit the team. I mean, it sounds kind of sappy, and I know they like people play up these stories, but it's true. I mean, I know people like that I went to school with that like probably could have been stars, and you know, it just didn't work out. Their situation was just bad. It didn't work out, and now I mean, I don't even know where those guys are at right now.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, people say all the time about like, oh, their mama drove them to practice every day, even though she was working overtime, stuff like that.
Right, and I mean, I think overtime's a good point too. Like even, you know, even if say $100 a month it might not seem like a big impact, but if that's like the difference in you having to pick up an overtime shift every weekend, like that's a big impact. Like if
Yeah.
now I'm home on Saturday instead
With
of
your
having
kids,
with my kids instead of having to go out and work, and that $100 is the difference, then I mean that's a big deal. Like it might not seem like a big deal, but that's a big deal, you know. Or maybe I can work less hours at work and I can be there to help my kid with their homework or whatever. Or if you don't have kids, you know, hey, you know, I've had this hobby for a long time. I'm really
Yeah.
good at it. I've now got a little bit more time for that hobby. Maybe I turn that hobby into a business.
I mean, even if you don't end up making any money, like your mental health is important too.
Right.
Something else I wanted to touch on that you just reminded me of. The thing about like wealth inequality too, about solving that, is that I feel like people get like big businesses, or you know, they'll become a famous actor, big sports person, or whatever, and like they'll write a book or something about like how hard they worked and like how hard they worked to get what they got. And like they definitely do work hard, but like there are a lot of like poor people that work really hard too. Like poor people, it's not like poor people just sitting around being poor,
Right.
Like people work really really hard and make no money.
Right. I mean, I definitely know, like, if I walk into a fast food joint and it's slammed, that guy's working way harder than me. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like if I had to do that for 40 hours a week, I've worked in a restaurant.
Well, yeah. So we both worked
Yeah.
in a restaurant in high school, and I mean, I haven't worked that hard since. Like that's the hardest I've ever worked in my life,
Right.
and I was making $10 an hour.
Right. And it's like, it's also like, do I think I'm smarter than that guy working in that restaurant? No way. Like, I understand that, like being I think we mentioned this earlier, but like being poor, being down is not a bad thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's an unfortunate
a dirty word.
circumstance. Yeah. Like, I don't like being poor does not reflect at all on your character. You know, there are plenty of great people out there who are probably 10 times better than I am, honestly, working some terrible job that's hard, and they got to work long hours for not a lot of money. And I mean, you know, you can get into reasons for that, but I mean, I just want to help you out, right? Like, it's going to benefit you probably more than it benefits me, and that's okay. Like, I encourage that, right? Because I'm trying to lift the floor. Right now, I'm comfortable, so I'm sitting above that floor right now. There are a lot of people though who are sitting way below that floor.
Yeah.
Like, way below it. And they're probably, I mean, a lot of those people too. I think when you talk about people who are on like, government assistance and things like that, people think about like, oh, well, they're lazy, they're not working. Like, that's nonsense. You know?
Yeah, like they're working way harder than you are, dude.
Right. Yeah. Like, if you're working 40 hours a week in a packed restaurant, there's a good possibility you're still not making enough money to get by. And I mean, you're putting in work to not get by.
Yeah,
and that's not right.
Because we've been there.
Yeah, exactly. Been there, done that, don't want to do it.
So another thing I'm big on is like, it's like people doing, what would be considered like not so glamorous jobs. Like, so my big thing is, okay, you're the CEO of a company, and I like to pick on Jeff Bezos just because he's a low hanging fruit. So like, you're the CEO of Amazon. Okay, well, people go out and pave roads every day that your delivery drivers drive on and to deliver your packages in 2 days. If those guys and girls don't go to work for 2 weeks, or whatever, there's all kinds of examples. If the mailman doesn't get up and go to work, your packages aren't getting delivered. Like, you have a multi-million-dollar company because of a lot of people, not just your employees, but like people getting up and doing jobs that don't pay that much is what allows you to be like a billionaire, dude. So, I mean,
and not to mention your own employees not getting paid that much.
I mean, that's a different thing entirely.
Right.
But that's why I like to pick on Bezos. But you could say that about anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all on the same team in America and everywhere, really, like globally.
Yeah.
We're all on the same team, right? We're all humans. We're all doing our best to get on by, have a good time. We're here for 100 years or less, and it's tough and a lot of times. So I don't know. I think a lot of people get in this us versus them mentality. Like, well, I don't want my money going to those people.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, like, I'll help somebody out when I see somebody needs helping out. And I think a lot of people need help. And when you think about people that are really going to be positively impacted. Again, we've been talking about a lot about like the poor and the needy, but like the impact even on $20 a month, like I remember, working in college, like $20, I was making, decent money. I had a decent job, but like $20 a month, like if that's paying like my water bill, like that's a noticeable impact. I mean, I'll take $20 a month right now, $20 a month will pay my garbage, man.
I'll find something to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one less thing I have to worry about, right? Mm-hmm. I can take it and I can do that. I mean, I'm good. I think a lot of people get into this mindset too of like, oh, well, if you just cut back on the avocado toast, you might, that's more money you're going to have. But like, I don't know. I mean, I have to cut out my small.
Well, so that's a big thing too. Like, that's easier said than done. Like,
right.
you say like, because a lot of the times, like I've heard people say, or people will know somebody's like struggling financially, but they'll see them like out at a restaurant, like eating or something, or
Right.
like picking up fast food, and they're like, well, man, if they didn't do that so much, they'd have a little bit more money. But like, I don't know. Again, like mental health is a big part of it too, because like when you're stressed out, dude, like you don't want to cook. I mean, I still do it. I'll get home, we don't want to cook, and I'll like man, it's awfully easy to go to Chick-fil-A right now, like and spend $30 because it makes you feel good too. Like it's a fun thing to do. Like I don't know.
Right. And it's like, especially like if I've got kids too, and we're having a rough time, and
yeah.
like, oh man, like I know this is hard on my kids. Like taking my kids to the movies,
Yeah.
like, oh man, my kid's gonna be happy. They're gonna be like, oh man, Dad's taking me to the movies.
Or
you
like
know?
they'll just be quiet for 2 hours. Too.
Yeah, I mean, that's 2 hours that you get to sit there and you get to relax.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it depends on the movie, I guess.
Or the kids.
Or the
Depends on
kids. But yeah, I mean, it's a big difference maker. I mean, like, and I don't want to take that away from you, right? If it's $20 to go see a movie, that's $20. I understand you're not going to spend elsewhere, but like a lot of times it's worth it. You know, a lot of times it's a need, even when it doesn't look like one.
Yeah.
Because for me, I mean, I can go to the movies whenever I want to. You know, honestly. So, and a lot of people I think that are making those comments, those disparaging comments, are in the same situation. Like, a movie, well, that's got to be expensive. Like, I'm sure that guy's not loading up on popcorn and, you know, like he's not racking up $200 at the movie. Like he's gonna buy a, you know, go to get tickets. Yeah, like a matinee. You know, like it's just, I mean, do what you need to. I'm not gonna take that away from you because I understand like you can't live a soulless life.
Yeah, I mean, like who wants to do that? I mean, have fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just getting by is honestly not good enough. Like if you look at the amount of opportunity and wealth that we have, even just in the Chattanooga area, like it is ridiculous that we've got people that are homeless.
There shouldn't be homeless people. There shouldn't be people who can't feed their kids. Like there shouldn't be people that are barely scraping by. I mean, yeah, like you said, not only in Chattanooga. Like if you live in the United States, you should not be struggling at one bit. Really.
Right.
Like we don't think everyone should be like rich and, you know, not have to work. But like, come on, dude. Like we can do better than what we're doing.
Right. I mean, I definitely, like we talked about it before, I believe in the value of hard work. Like there are jobs that need to be done. I don't mind going to work. I mean, I like my job. I like working. Anybody that knows me, you know, will tell you I like working. But
when you work your fingers to the bone and you don't have anything to show for it, like that's what I have a problem with.
Right. Like if I put in an honest 40 hours, I'm working hard, I'm out there producing, like I should get my fair share out of that. I should live with dignity, and that's what we want for people with this fund. I mean, this is what this is going to enable. I mean, I'll long-term goals. I mean, we think that there should be no homeless person in the Chattanooga area. I mean, that almost sounds crazy when you say it because of just the world we live in, but it's ridiculous that's a crazy notion.
Well, we can do it too.
Oh yeah, we not only can we do it, we have concrete plans on how to do it. If we had the money right now,
we would
do it. And I mean, I think a lot of people say that, well, oh man, if I had $1 million, I could fix all the problems in the world. And I know that's not true.
But we ain't playing.
Yeah, I know things are complicated, but that's all right. Like we're problem solvers by nature. If you watch this podcast long enough, hopefully you'll believe me when I say that. But I'm going to show you too, right? Because it's one thing to sit here and say, "Oh, I'm a problem solver." It's a completely different story once we've solved a few of your problems, and we can say, "Hey,
yeah, we'll win you over."
Yeah, we'll get it done. I mean, I also don't expect you to believe in me day one. You know, I don't expect you to believe in us day one. We haven't earned it yet. We will earn it. I just ask that, you know, when we do earn it, you come out in kind and help us do more.
Buy a couple more raffle tickets or something.
Right, exactly. I mean, put me to work, right? Like I would love to do this full time and have the kind of busyness going on to where I'm working full time on solving problems around Chattanooga.
And we'll hire some people too. Like if you want to work for it, or you know, if you want to volunteer right now, great, reach out to us too. But you know, in the long run, we do expect to need. It'll be nice to need to hire somebody. And that that's as far off as y'all want to make it because
Yeah, I mean,
we just need money.
expansion is the goal. Like, we have plenty of ideas that we're going to share as we do more episodes of this thing. We have plenty of problems to solve. Lord knows we have plenty of problems that would need solving, and like, we'll do it. Put me to work. The more donations that come in, the more problems we can solve, the more work we're gonna go and do out there in the community. So yeah.
Yeah, we've been going for quite a good little while here, so we can wrap that up for episode number 1, and we'll have another one in a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, just another reminder. I'm Davey, again, DAVEY at communityimprovementfund.org. Andrew at communityimprovementfund.org. Info at communityimprovementfund.org. Email us really wherever. We will read it. We will get back to you. communityimprovementfund.org/donate if you want to buy a raffle ticket or if you want to make a donation. What else? Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get a notification on when the next video comes out. Currently, we have our next event is actually another trivia night we're going to be hosting up on top of Lookout Mountain. It's, a local event for us just because that's where we know people. That's where we can drive turnout.
Yeah, it's going to be at the Ascalon Baptist Church Fellowship Hall on November 6th.
Yep. Thanks to them for letting us use our space. We had some members of their congregation show up to our last event where we actually had rented out a space, and they said, hey, we appreciate what you're doing here. We understand what you're doing here. Use our space for free. So absolutely 100% thank you for that. We appreciate that. I mean, that's a donation in of itself, right? So we definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, that's $50 that we would have to take out of our earnings. So
yeah. We'll have a good time there. We'll definitely let you guys know how that goes. And we'll be sure that when we get the next one on the calendar, we'll let you know. I think we're good to wrap this one up. Again, I can't stress enough, like, subscribe, visit the website, see what we got going on. We appreciate you for watching this. We appreciate you for hanging out with us. Send us some mail. We'll talk about it in the next one, and we will see you around.
We will talk to you next time.